Alright, people, we are back again. I think we're back. It says we're streaming. It says we're streaming, but I don't see a video. There it is. Okay. So, where we left off, we had generated a map, and we would find a start. Our start point is in green, and our end point is in red. So that's the target. This is the user. Would be interesting if we had some GUI data up at the top displaying the current step that we were at. But I don't know if that's really necessary. That data would change so quick, especially at full speed. I'm pretty pleased with some of these maps. We could potentially use this as a way of saving maps. But that's okay. We'll leave it as is for now. If I really cared, I would look into how to get rid of these subdivision lines. That's really not a big deal either, since this is just prototyping. I'm actually really pleased with this. The next thing I want to do really quick is I want to implement in the UI a init button. I haven't actually created a button before, so I'm just gonna assume that that's what it is. We got rid of the init sliders, so we should be able to say self init buttons. Make sure I'm not muted again. I'm all paranoid after that last one. Yeah, okay. So the initialize the buttons, we update the manager, draw the UI, and on the, where is our top level? Main.py. Let's go ahead and do a commit, because I haven't. That was step 3. And then in the main loop, we need to allow this again. And we would say that if the EUI element is in, do we have a button? We don't have a buttons list. Self.buttons. We want to say if e.userType equals button pressed. That's what we want to do, but we don't want to create noise in this one. On the path level, we actually want to abstract the find endpoint. So create locations. We could actually break this up. And we can define create start location. Is that what it is? Let's look at our real code. We get the start quadrant. So it's not get random quadrant. Um, so let's go ahead and copy this stuff in. Yep, real quick, so we're deviating a bit, but we're gonna go ahead and make an enums.py because our map, actually we're not gonna call it enums, since we only have one. We'll just call it quadrants.py. Trying to speed run this. That to do is done. Quadrants is this. From enum, import enum. That's all here. Oh, random. Import random. And I don't believe I'm here anymore. Just gonna go ahead and close this stuff until we need it. So from quadrants, I'll just say import quadrants. It's fine. Actually, from quadrants, import quadrant. So to create an in location, we get a random quadrant. For start location, get starting quadrant from the in quadrant. We could make this an implicit function for the quadrant type, but then we would have to define this as static and then pass the starting quadrant to it anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. Do it that way. That is a way to do it. But yeah, so we still pass this to the start. Get random quadrant from the end region. Get the balance of that quadrant. Get and set a random start random index xy value for a given endpoint and update the square with new endpoint. And so that's the missing piece here, is we just add the squares from the start. The thing we're now missing is screen and screen size, but we can pass these in. I'm okay with that. Although at this point We need screen size outside of draw. I am going to say that we change this up because I'm tired of passing this stuff into every square.
The same as shopping in store. Same low prices, deals, and rewards on the same high quality items. It's one small click for groceries, one big win.
It just doesn't make sense to save all of that stuff.
Today at Kroger.com. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Just have screen size and
choose from a great selection of digital coupons and use them up to 5 times in one transaction.
Screen Center
Check our app for
X.
details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Screen Center Y would be based off of the screen size. And then we'll just pass this data into our draw function on the map. So when we draw, pass in self.screen. And what's the other data we need here? The screen size. And then there's less redundancy, and we don't have to pass this in. Because this doesn't make sense for all of this data to be inside of every square. Now the only data for a square is relative to the square. That way, when we generate a square, we don't need this data. We would still need a square size. We can pass that down here. That'll be okay. That is perfectly okay. And then we can still use those values in the initializer on these other fields, so that's perfectly fine. So, back to the path. And index the location square size. Really, we could this is a bit of redundant information, but it's nice having both of them. We'll see why for later. But when we're checking our square index against the index of the squares, we can look at the squares themselves. We don't essentially have to have it like that, but it's just another way to do it. If we iterate through these, we don't have to iterate by index. We can iterate by a square and then check the index of a given square. Or check some other property. So it's just kind of nice to have. I don't know if we need comments for all of this, but why not? Okay, so now in our map function, we would just call self.createEndLocation and self.createStartLocation. Now, the only problem with creating multiple start locations at this time is that this data will change each time we generate a new start location. Which makes me feel like we should have a location type. Or a target type and a person type, but we're not going to go that far into this. Because it would be nice to keep a list of start locations, or potentially even allow quadrants that are just not the end quadrant. But all of that's a bit beyond what I'm hoping to do with this. I don't think it's necessary to implement all of that. If you want to do that as an added challenge, you can go ahead and do that after or during or whatever. But it's not, if I was making this into a real game, I might pursue something like that. For the sake of what I'm doing, I don't think there's really a need for that. But if the button is pressed and the UI element is in the buttons list, then we want to self create a start location. Only thing I'm missing is that the start location, actually we don't need any of that data anymore. That's why we refactored things. So we shouldn't need anything. Is that it? One of these spawns are still taking in more data than we need. Screen size. Self.x location 0, it's not scriptable. Index location. Line 65 and create in location. Well, one thing is, this is supposed to be end location, not start location. An ending index, not starting index. I just realized that we can actually factor out these whole things now. But I don't know if I want to do that because we might want to call these individually later. But we could say
At Kroger, shopping with pickup and delivery is the same as shopping in store. Same low prices, deals, and rewards on the same high quality items. It's one small click for groceries, one big win for busy families everywhere. Start your cart today at Kroger.com. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Choose from a great selection of digital coupons and use them up to 5 times in one.
I wonder if I'm supposed to,
Kroger.
like, I don't think that makes any difference because it's unpacking. But my logic was we could technically say, self dot end index it's not, I mean, it is find, I don't like the term find path because that's actually going to be something we need to do later. Let's call it find path location because that's what we're doing, is we're trying to find a location. But can we do, because really that was just wrapper code. I kind of like this a little better because within the scope of this function we are saying we are assigning this value before we call it here. How did these end up backwards is what I want. Well, that's cool. Oh, yeah, forgot to show you, you can't see it. So, in location, start location. And so, question is, does our generate button do anything? It doesn't look like it's even doing anything. Let's go back to create start location. I want to create a new function. Create new chart. And all we're going to do is we're going to say new quadrant equals a list Q quadrant for Q and quadrant if Q does not equal the end quadrant. And then we're going to say random dot choice Okay, sorry about that. I've got a wife and 3 kids, so sometimes my work and projects are not a priority. But what we're gonna do is we're just gonna say new bounds equals new quadrant, get quadrant position, map size. Jesus. What we'll end up doing is we'll actually end up setting do we want to update start index and start location, or append to start list? So that's our options, or we just ignore it. But what we're gonna do is self.squares. Oh, that's part of our problem. Start index. New index equals square, new index, new location, self square. Our start locations, I guess, are red. I was thinking our starts were green. And our targets are red. And I'm gonna have to go get dinner for the family soon, so I'm not gonna be able to finish all of this today. Apparently, so there's our green. I don't see a red anywhere. Excuse me. Again, because we are using the wrong values. I don't know how this ended up happening like this. But now we can change this to say create new start. So there's our start. There's our end. Is our generate button doing anything? I don't feel like it is. So, because I'm not processing the events, great. I always hit that button. So, moment of truth, here's our start, here's our end point. And when we generate a button, we get the output, and there's a new start. There's a new start. There's a new start. There's a new start. I do want to... I want to narrow the quadrants, or actually expand them. So I would like to make the what I want to do is I would like to make this even more dynamic than it is now, but I'm gonna do a get end quadrant position and a get start quadrant position, because I want the end quadrant to be like in the corner, but I want to give the starting quadrant more room. I don't like the idea of breaking it into thirds, because then there's a third of the map that will never hit. So this gives it more range, essentially. And then in the path, we get a start quadrant position. Get start quadrant position, and then get end quadrant position. So then our end point should be more, typically should be more in the corner, and our start point can be, eventually we put enough of these on the map, we should see that we are never going to cross into that square. And you could come up with more dynamic methods, but I don't want to spend too much time digging into that. But what's cool is that each of these should eventually, we should see diverging or converging paths, where certain areas tend to follow certain directions. And that would be a cool way to draw terrains too, if these aren't necessarily paths for targets to find their way, but actually if we were saying generating tall grass versus dirt paths, this would be a cool way to do that. But I'm gonna cut this one here. I gotta go get dinner for the family. There's our button. We can generate more than one spawn. I think for now what we're gonna do is say, and I know I'm already introducing a bug by doing this, but we're gonna just overwrite these values. And now I'm creating a bug. I know this is actually redundant code, but I'm gonna leave this separate because I am going to change this in the future, just to eliminate the bug. The problem is I know that we're going to use this start index and start location value in our pathfinding later. Really could use just the index, but this eliminates having to do a lot of conversions, and that lowers the amount of processing resources that it takes, even though it increases the general memory size. It's not really an issue with something this small. So the problem is, if we are searching for a path and we create a new start path while we are searching for a path, then our path is going to just stop. So there's a bug there. So I think we'll end up introducing a list, and that's what we'll do when we create a new start location, is we will that's what we'll we do want to do that, and so we'll look at that next time. And it's good that we start this before we get into the pathfinding, probably. But then after that, we're going to do a little bit of jumping around. This is going to take more time than I thought, but one of the next steps is going to be starting from the end location and mapping out the distance per step of the map. So that will be pretty cool. We'll get to see some visuals from that. And with the pathfinding, the pathfinding from the start to the end is relatively fast. And there's some optimizations we can make too when we get there, but look at removing redundant path tracing. It's more of a personal note. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you'll see. I think that's okay for now. The only thing I did want to change really quick is this button on the UI. It kind of looks janky. We don't need it that low. We could move it 30, and then we could make it a little bit taller. Let's look at that. Also don't need a pass here because we're not passing this. There's our button. I'm ready to see this thing in action. So yeah, this is gonna be pretty dang cool. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I gotta run, but I'll see you